Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Let's have a look at this new patch, shall we? The 1.05 patch. It is in beta. That means that in order to access it, if you're running this game through Steam, you need to right-click it, go to Properties, Betas, and then enable the beta. Otherwise, you're not getting updated to the 1.05 beta version. Now, there are a ton of changes. Let me show you around. We're going to go with the patch log so you can read along or just watch the video. Starting, we have a map expansion. Expanded the map to include the Mediterranean Sea and a larger portion of Europe. So normally you would be fighting between the Germans and the British. We have, of course, the German ports. We also have the British ports, but we also have the Italians. The Italians, the French. The Spanish aren't actually part of the campaign yet, but the French and Italians are playable factions. Now, I fired it up as the Italians, and this means that you can see in politics, as well as over here, what nations we are at war with. So we're at war with Germany, and we're at war with Austria-Hungary. Yes, interestingly, the Italians are, 1940 that is, in alliance with the British and the French. So we now have the ability to use those nations. They are all added to the game as playable nations. This means that you're going to start in the campaign in 1890, unless you make an edit to the save file, and in that case, you can start a little later. AKA, the way that I did it, I'm starting in 1940. Task forces are now also a thing. You can move a task force into a specific position, and you can see that the French have a task force here. This is a task force of 2 light ships, 2 light cruisers, and 2 destroyers. We have a task force here, moving from Brest to the North Sea, with a battle cruiser and a heavy cruiser. They have a couple of ships departing Le Havre, which is a battleship, 3 cruisers, and 2 destroyers. Destination, Baltic Sea, move to X96Y105. And you can sort of see where they're going by these lines that seemingly end up nowhere. Now, I haven't exactly figured out how this works, but it seems that this way you can, as they say on the patch notes, strategically block passages or block strategic passages, generate missions according to the ships in the vicinity. So let's say that you are facing the Germans as the British. You can decide that you want to block off the portion here. Just, let's say, either this route in Denmark or the other route through Denmark. And that way, you might be able to keep the ships which are parked over there, which in this case would be 2 battleships, in Danzig. They would not be able to leave Danzig, which I think would be a very nice development. But then again, the Germans, if they get the opportunity, they could block the channel. And if they do that, then you might find yourself in a lot of trouble. You can also see that the fleets over here from the British have a certain power projection. And with this, you can decide where you want to project power and how much you want there by designating specific resources. I don't have any ships at the moment, so I cannot show you the task forces in this particular way. But I'm going to be firing up a new campaign, which is going to be hitting the channel either today or in the next couple of days. And, well, that's going to show you how that works. If you have a ship already designed, then you can now refit that ship. Again, I cannot really do that here, but let's say you have a ship design. You want to update a ship because you have gotten some new tech. The refit button now actually works. You can refit your ship from changing a few components to radically replacing weapons, funnels, towers with modern variations. So you don't have to scrap old ships and wait for X amount of months to be building new ones. No, you can just refit them. Now there's also new sea rolls. I'm going to design a ship pretty quick, aka let the auto designer do it. And we're going to have this ship in one of those new sea rolls. Because the sea rolls that they had was in being and sea control. And it says here, new sea rolls added to the previous in being and sea control, so we have more. Special for task forces, offering more options for controlling strategically your ships. So you now have a lot more different options. Looks like the AI is hard at work figuring out what to put where on this ship. And it's also... okay. We have a bit of an issue here. The San Giovina Battista Grande is too big for the shipyards. Maybe I should have specified a different design. Anyway, let's just go with this. I'm going to need 2 guns. Otherwise the ship won't leave dock. There we go. Oh, you need a funnel. Yeah, you're right. Here we go. Funnel. Save. Exit. So this ship, I can now send out wherever I want it. Let's say I have 5 of these. And these guys together can go on missions. We're going to select... Oh, I don't know. Southern Italy. We're going to send them in Bari. Start the campaign. And now from the Bari port here, I can get these ships' orders. So I can tell my fleet, which are currently all in being. Let's see, Bari, move ships here, all of you. And they're going to be moving to the position that I specified, X135 by 199. So you can now see these as one task force. I can set them in sea control mode, I can set them in invade mode, which I suppose is going to try and do attacks on enemy ports. Or I can send them in protect mode, which I think is going to protect your own ports. Apparently you can have them being repaired, which is nice, and of course you can just pull them back into port if you so choose. So I can say move, right click, or sorry, oh, probably because they're already moving, I cannot actually give them orders. There are also interface improvements. There's a new tab, Politics, where you will later manage some diplomacy aspects. Now you're able to overview the relations and powers of all nations. So you can see over here what their size of their fleet is. The French have a fairly large fleet of 61 ships. The British have 44, but what it currently doesn't say is how many ships of each type they have. You can see that in the world overview. Go here. I can see that the Germans have 3 battleships, the Austro-Hungarians have 4. I don't know what the British have. And I'm not sure... No, you cannot scroll through this. So this is something that, at the moment, I cannot see. Maybe they're going to add that later. Now, with the politics screen, you're later going to be able to also set what nation interacts with what nation how. So, okay, I'm going to try and get, I don't know, peace with the Germans, for example. And that way I can specify who I want to try to conquer. Again, this is not coming, or this is not here yet. It's going to be coming. But the whole politics window at the moment is already quite interesting. Because I can already see that at the moment all of these nations have a bit more spending than what they're currently getting. Because they have a negative growth. Now they seem to all have the exact same negative growth. I'm not sure why. Updating relationships. Transport losses. Well, it looks like everybody lost transports. That's fine. Yeah, there we go. It has updated, but for every nation, it's still a minus of exactly the same. So this is something that is probably still work in progress. Now there's also, as you can see here, submarines. They are not specified as part of the active fleet, but they are as a separate unit, which means that they're probably going to be strategic assets as opposed to your normal controllable ship. I don't think submarines have a lot of role in Dreadnoughts at the moment, nor should they have, but as a strategic asset, I quite like them. Another strategic asset that might come later, but is currently not shown here, is the aircraft carrier. Now, we also have balances. Maintenance cost is balanced so that it's not so high now that some ships will spend more time at sea with all the various expensive sea rolls. And tech tree research is balanced to be overall faster, and tech priorities will give more of a distinctive advantage when chosen. Okay. Let's say I want to do more hull strengthening. It's going to currently take me 54 months. Now, I haven't played through a campaign in 1.05 yet, but you could usually win a campaign if you were fast in 3 to 6 months. So generally, it didn't really matter that much, the whole tech thing. I generally just disabled it. I just moved to finances and gave it absolutely no budget. But let's say I want to stick it at 50% and give it a research priority. It's going to jump to 17 months. But what does it do to the rest? We got torpedo tubes on 62 months. So if I boost this, oh, that still goes to 93 months. It's not worth it. Yes, this is faster at the expense of everything else. That's a problem. I think that still needs to get changed. Because yes, I understand that if you're focusing your scientists on, for example, hull strengthening, that it's going to take them longer to research torpedo tubes. But 3 years longer? That's not great. Now, new hulls are coming, but not in the beta. But what we do have is going to make you very happy. At least it made me very happy, because we now have the accessibility of beam and draft. Now, these two impact a lot in the ships. If you go back to the bottom right-hand side of the map, the windows, you can get the stats, and you can see 0 for beam and 0 for draught, whatever. This is how high the hull is. So if I slide this, you can see that the hull grows vertically, if you will, and you can shrink it down. Now, why would you want to mess with this? Well, let's have a look at the tooltip. The height of the hull greatly affects the ship maneuverability, stability, and resistance against hits. Okay, so let's say that for a battleship, you might want more resistance against hits. For something like a cruiser or a destroyer, you might want more maneuverability, so their draft would be less. A taller and consequently larger hull is less stable shooting platform, but is more resistant against flooding and can carry more load, while the operational range becomes increased by its ability to maintain the cruising speed with less wave resistance. Because your bow also gets quite tall. So your seakeeping capabilities become far, far better. And this means that the ship's operational range goes to 17,201, as opposed to, when I'm more or less neutral, 13,000. So if you want to have a ship that can go anywhere, but is potentially not as stable, then maximizing your draft is going to be an interesting consideration. But you get all sorts of positives and negatives with that consideration. Because at the moment, you get 8% base accuracy from this taller ship. But you're also more visible. And if you flood, you gain a bigger speed penalty. Flooding can do more damage to the ship. The flooding chance increases, the water spreading chance increases, your acceleration decreases. Rudder shift, speed at maximum turning rate itself, and even gun damage, but that is, actually, let me cover the first. Turning rate, speed, rudder shift, deceleration, stuff like that, it's all buffs. When it says gun damage and torpedo damage, the way that I understood it is that the shells that you take, so inbound shells and inbound torpedoes, do less damage. And that lines up with the tooltip because it says it gives you more resistance against hits. Of course, if you have maybe a battle cruiser would be an interesting example. You might want to have a battle cruiser with less draft. Because with less draft, you can get more acceleration. You can get better base accuracy by 13%, as opposed to the, 8%, I think? Yeah, 8.7%. Ship detectability should be better. Yeah, minus 25% ship detectability, minus 20% ship visibility, minus 18% engine weight. And you are more of a slope to design, which increases ricochet chance, because if you look at the hull, it becomes a bit more angled upwards, if you will. So this is something that you're going to be playing around with a lot. And it means that your customization for these ships just has gone up by, well, pretty much a factor of 2 or 3, depending on how you want to look at it. Because you can customize your ships to your heart's content. And I really love this change. I really love this. This is going to make for a lot of customization. More customization can be found if we add a gun. Doesn't matter what gun, I just want any gun, because that unlocks the armament tab. The first buttons, how much maximum HE rounds for the main guns do you have, and for the secondary guns. Because you can now specify what your main guns and your secondary guns fire. So let's say that you have your main guns firing maximum armor piercing, which gives them 50% more AP shells. At the moment, let's see, does it specify? I'm not sure if it specifies how many shells I have. Ammo per gun is 300. It doesn't specify how many of those shells are now AP or HE, as far as I can tell. But if you go, for example, for max AP, you gain more AP shell ratio. If you go for max HE, you gain far less AP ratio. I would, for the main guns, in case of a battleship, say, you know what, I want to go for increased AP for main guns. And then for my secondary armament, I want to go for maximum HE shells. And maybe, actually not maybe HE for secondaries, because the Italians, and not just the Italians, oh, no, never mind. This is how much ammo they carry of each type. So this is your mains, this is your secondaries. This is what the type of high explosive shell that both main guns and secondary guns fire uses. So you can go for incendiary, high explosive incendiary shell, 150% HE shell fire chance. It also means that your shell fuse time is far lower, but your pen chance is almost none, because you get a minus 95%. The other side of the spectrum is capped ballistic. Common pointed ballistic capped. An improved CPC, which is common pointed capped. I still have to learn all these things. Improved CPC shell, which has an aerodynamically shaped cap that improves ballistic and penetration power of the shell. The shell is denser and heavier and carries less bursting charge than a typical HE round. But your chance to deal a pen, or to get a pen, is far better. What I find very interesting with the AP shells is that you also have SAPBC, or semi-armor piercing. World of Warships players might be familiar with this term. Now, in this case, I am using Italian ships, but it is by no means limited to the Italians. Semi-armor piercing shells carry a higher explosive payload due to the medium thickness of the shell walls. Their fuse has a medium delay, and as a result, they are still capable of penetrating heavy armor up to a certain extent, and when they do, they have a more destructive effect. These shells might be highly ineffective against heavily armored battleships, but devastating against lightly armored warships. So, in this case, let's say that your main guns are going to fire maybe capped. So that's a higher end AP, more pen chance. Your secondary guns, mostly firing HE shells, might use something like a nose fuse or a base fuse or incendiary, so that if you cannot pen a target, you can always burn it down with a higher explosive chance. So these two give you a lot of customization again. This is going to make, again, for all sorts of different ship designs. So again, the amount of customization has been vastly improved. And of course, you still already had these, the shell charges and propellants, and as far as I know, those have not been changed. Let's see, there's a new battle control option that says avoid ship. Let's see if I can force an encounter. Also, as I'm trying to force an encounter in this campaign, you can see that the total distance traveled is 1,240 kilometers. Ship will arrive in 3 turns. It's not like you're going to click the move button and it's going to be there in the next turn. It doesn't work that way. Ships have to travel, in this case, several months in order to get to their destination. So you can see that the ship just moved a couple of, well, pips, if you will. But it's not quite there yet. Alright, I have the Austro-Hungarian Empire here. Let's see if I can move into those guys. Yeah, all of you move. Because I am at war with these people, yes? Yeah. Why are we not killing them? Hold on, did you take my port? That's something new. Protect. You're not doing that much protecting, are you? Oh, here we go. Task Force. My 5 battleships against... That's a sizable fleet. Anyway, what I'm going to show you is the avoid ship button. Okay, here we are. Currently, ships are set to avoid. Give the command for this division to automatically try to avoid collision with friendly or enemy ships. By default, this functionality is enabled. Yeah, but we know how good/bad the AI is at that. They generally don't do very well. So in this case, I'm going to turn it off, and now ships should not be able to dodge each other as easily. Nor dodge the enemy, because sometimes you want to get the ram, and sometimes you want to try and get the enemy to get hit by simply your ship as opposed to your shells. And in this case, having the avoid ships button allows you to very much customize whether you want to ram or do not want to ram. Something else that this new button system allows you to do, what type of shells do you want? And this is for my main guns, because this battleship doesn't have any secondary guns. You can also do it for secondary guns, although it's grayed out because I don't have it. And you can set whether you want to shoot them or not. So the ability to specify whether you want to be firing AP from mains or HE from secondaries or the other way around is going to allow you a lot more control over how your ship performs. Because previously in patch 1.04, you had a one for all. So if you set HE, every gun on your ship would fire HE. You set AP, every gun on your ship would fire AP. What else? What else we have? Improved shell ballistics and gun aiming mechanics. Following the various new options for AP and HE shells, the shell ballistics now follow a much more characteristic trajectory depending on all their different physical variables. Additionally, the guns aim in a more realistic manner, firing salvos depending on the target's speed and angular velocity. For example, previously you would see shell salvos to be the mostly random in relation to the center of the target. But now salvos are en masse fired forward, aft, in front or behind the target until the range is found and hits start to be achieved. This automatic procedure affects the base accuracy and now makes the firing more natural and expected depending on target distance. Now, considering my current fleet, this is not something I'm going to test, but this is something we'll just have to see in the campaign. What we can see is an improved ship motion at sea. Ship buoyancy mechanics are enriched to support the new beam and draft options. The interaction of ships with waves is now more characteristic depending on the weight offset, pitch roll, beam draft options chosen for their design. Because we have seen ships sort of dip down and almost go submarine mode with the entire quarter deck or even the bow being submerged. Right now I'm not even seeing that. The ship seems to be very, very stable. Stay with me here, buddy. What if I turn? What if I go for a maximum starboard turn? How is that going to affect the ship? This thing is like it's on rails. I barely see it listing. If at all. Interesting. Okay. Maybe they overdid that. Or my ship is just so incredibly light for the displacement that it just doesn't matter at all. Again, we're going to see more of this in the campaign. Something else that they changed is the flooding mechanics. Flooding from direct hits will now spread not only to the adjacent sections, but further beyond, depending on the height of water inside the flooded sections. What you used to see a lot is, for example, you take a ship or a hit midships, and those compartments flood. And then it just stops because of the watertight doors. But it was a bit odd that you could take a flooding hit midships and you could take another flooding hit midships and it didn't actually spill over. But now it seems like it will. This new feature addresses the previously unnatural survivability for smaller ships, especially torpedo boats. Yeah, there's the magic flex tape, because destroyers, torpedo boats, and all sorts of light ships used to have extremely good survivability, far better than what they deserved. With this new feature, the torpedo and flooding protection schemes in the design options will be more than essential. So a torpedo belt is probably going to be vastly more important. Over-penetration mechanics have been improved. They will now happen with more accurate conditions. Previously, the unarmored ships would mostly overpen, or the heavily armored almost never became over-penetrated. So that's something that we're going to see in the campaign as well. Exponential speed limits for hulls. As ships reach maximum speed barrier, depending on the hull technology, the engine weight needed to achieve the higher speed increases exponentially. Okay, let's go to the editor and have a look. I don't think that this battle went especially well. Well, according to the AI, I was able to damage quite a few of those ships. Interesting. Anyway, new design. Because, as they say, it's going to change the weight exponentially. So let's say I want to have a bit more speed on this hull. 43, 44, 45, 46, 48, 50. 50,000 tons. And you can have a modern battleship that is 39 knots. That is extremely quick. For a battleship, that's very, very good. If you go all the way down, you're saving quite a bit. But look at this. The difference between going 16 knots and 18 knots is almost not noticeable. It's about 100 tons. If you want to go from 35 knots to 37 knots, you're suddenly paying a lot more in displacement. So that's what they mean. Because that additional 2 knots at 35 knots is going to require a far bigger engine than going from 16 to 18 knots. So that's another nice addition, which is going to make it far more difficult to make those ships which can achieve ridiculously good speeds. It's going to make it more difficult. It's not going to make it impossible. AP and HE have different stats. When you hover over guns to see their info tooltip, you will now see detailed and different statistics for AP, HE shell weight, damage, range, muzzle velocity, pen, and accuracy tables. Okay, show me. HE, AP, yeah, there we go. Let's say for 10,000 meters, my chance to pen HE, or with HE, is, or I can pen 0.3 inches of armor. If I'm looking at AP, I can pen far more, at 14 inches. And then deck is, again, pretty bad, at 2.3, 2.1, 2.1. Oh, sorry, accuracy is the last one, 2.1, 2.1%. So you can now see what sort of chance HE has. And before this, it was mostly sort of guesswork. Can I pen this with HE? Probably. We're going to just try it. Now you can actually specify, based on your stats, essentially based on your research, whether this is feasible or not. I, for one, am curious to see what a 20-inch gun can do. So for science, I'm going to see how much HE pen I can get out of a 20-inch gun. Let's say 20,000 meters. I can pen 0.3 inches of armor, if I'm reading this right. But I can pen 12 inches of belt armor. Okay, we're going to maximize that. We're going to go with... Oh, the super heavy shells are... No, here we are. Super heavy shells. That does not do anything for my HE chance. But if I go for CPBC... Whoa! We just went from 0.3 to 7.4 inches of armor pen with a high explosive shell. Now, that high explosive shell is not nearly as deadly as, for example, the incendiary shell, in the sense that it doesn't actually cause a lot of HE damage. But you will pen a lot more. HE damage, 4,900. Good lord. If you go with the incendiary shells, which have a far lower chance to pen, but if you get a pen, you get 6,500 damage. Okay, that's a lot of damage. And if I want to maximize that, how much could I get? So the lowest spectrum is 6,273 HE damage at 0.3 pen. If I go the other way, you got 7.9 inches of armor pen. Jeez, you could blow away a light cruiser with these shells. High explosive. That's insane. Okay. What about AP? Looking at it, AP damage, 3600, 20,000 meter range, 14.2 inches of belt pen. Okay. 14.2. If we go the other way to capped ballistic 2, 20,000 meters, 34 inches. Sweet Jesus. Okay. That's a lot. I suppose muzzle velocity also changes. It's currently 739. Yeah, 678. So your shells also become faster. This is so much pen. We're going to have all sorts of fun with these stats and modifiers. If I go for a light shell, I suppose I can make these things ridiculously quick. 678, 739. The HE muzzle velocity is far higher, actually. 714. Does muzzle velocity change here? Not really. Propellant. -5, -6. No. 800 meters per second, though, is very quick. Yeah, we're going to have all sorts of fun with these. What else? Crew scales with hull size and displacement. As you change displacement, beam, and draft, the hull crew number will change accordingly. Previously, the control station crew was not scaling. Okay, so that's a good move. Added instability of beam draft values in the battle UI. These are important design aspects useful to know for any ship that participates in a battle. Yeah, you want to know what those things do, these two. Ship weight and cost balanced the weight and cost for various parts and components as was needed in all the latest new features. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I skipped one. Save file improvement. When a new game version requires it, the obsolete save file will be discarded and a new one will be generated automatically. This will stop confusion of players when the game would become broken due to incompatible saves, leading to invalid designs, exceptions, floating guns, etc. Good. Other balances. Donite explosives is available in late tech years. Radar rangefinder 3? Whoa. Okay. Yeah. Radar rangefinder 3 is now available, and other minor improvements or balances for the ship's design options. Very advanced radar offers greater accuracy over very long distances. I suppose this is going to make the ship ridiculously more expensive. Not even that much. We used to have Generation 2 radar rangefinder. If I go to 3, we're going from 85,208 to 87 million. But I would not mind spending about 2 million and change to get a better rangefinder. Yeah, so we got a bonus of 15%, 30%, or 35% to gun aiming speed. Generation 2 is so much better than Generation 1. Jesus. Plus 30% long range accuracy, plus 55, plus 60. Minus 10% accuracy penalty during night fighting, minus 20, minus 22. So during nights, apparently it doesn't matter that much. But long range gun accuracy is going to make these things ridiculously accurate. But it's expensive. Running this thing is expensive. And this is the modern battleship hull. If you get a better tower, let's see, I think this is long range accuracy 30, 32, 37. Yeah, this is the best that the Italians can get. When you're looking at the Japanese, I think you can get even more accuracy. So it's going to be sniper level accuracy, probably. So try not to have your ship get hit at all, but if you're facing some sort of Japanese sniper, good luck with that. What else? Because we're not done yet, but we're almost there. Battle AI. The battle AI is further improved to make decisions more promptly and effectively by using more algorithms. The result is an AI that will know better when to attack and defend, and at which distance, always depending on the nation's personality. Lately, we've seen the AI do all sorts of weird shit, especially with the legendary system or legendary encounters episodes. The ships would just not do a whole lot. They would mostly run away. I hope that that's now going to be changed. Auto-targeting is influenced by the new AI algorithms and is more effective. Some older issues should become resolved, for example, the over-prioritization of transports. Yeah, but transports, arguably, when you're sinking transports, that's your main mission. But apparently now they might also just hunt down your escorts. Okay. Improve the AI decision-making on switching shell type. You will notice that the ships will more successfully switch ammo depending on the armor and angle of the target. This is something that I've been complaining about the last 3 videos, I think, for legendary encounters. Because the HE was vastly more effective and the AI just sent back AP, which almost always deflected off of my angled armor. So the AI learning, if you will, when to use HE is definitely going to make for a more interesting battle. AI auto-design algorithms enriched to support all the new features of beam and draft, new components. The ships created will be balanced in protection and firepower and thus more potent adversaries. Okay. Again, I cannot really show you, but we'll just see if that's true. Bug fixes. Several division movements bugs were fixed. Ships will not confuse so much as before in dense formations. Again, we shall see it. Fixed issue that caused the division ship leader to instantly switch position when receiving little damage, causing confusion to the formation. To instantly switch position? I think they mean that if a lead ship, so the division leader, would take too much damage, it falls back. And that means that the second ship would take charge. But maybe the lead ship would then, I don't know, pump out some water and become the ship or the div leader again. And that causes all sorts of messes in the formation. Fixed a bug that would cause ships of screen formation to immediately try to switch position at the start of a battle, creating big confusion in the formation. Yeah, that was a big issue. Normally, if you have a couple of ships, let's say 2 cruisers, 2 battleships, and a destroyer, the destroyer might scout, but the heavy cruisers might screen. So they'd be on either side of the battleships. But if you had 3 screening ships, it would cause usually a big mess, especially if you don't want to use the screening formation. Fixed bugs that would cause the showing of inaccurate statistical data while after battle. Good. In one of the legendary battles, somebody said in the comments, hey, it looked like you had a cadet level crew. No, that was just an inaccuracy in the statistical data, as they call it. That should hopefully be resolved. Fix some issues with barbettes that were not available in mount positions while they should. This bug would cause issues in the auto design, which made it very difficult to find a proper barbette to place a gun. Okay. I think this is mostly due to the AI, or looking into the AI, but it's something that you as a player should not notice unless you're looking very much at AI ships. Fixed old issues of inconsistent reverse engine damage. I barely use it, because especially with the geared turbines, if you reverse, it's going to cause all sorts of damage to your engine. Diesels are far more forgiving, because they take less time to repair. But it's something that I might be able to use in this campaign. We'll just see how it goes. Good lord, that's expensive. Look at this. Geared turbines, 103 million. Gas turbines, 118 million. Oh well. That was it. It also says the beta has known incomplete features. For example, the nations on the campaign fight each other but cannot yet create alliances. Britain, France, and Italy fight Germany and Austria-Hungary, but they cannot yet create coordinated naval battles together, so you will only be fighting alone versus all your enemies, while the rest of the nations will damage them as much as they can. Please note that all the new features of this patch will make all previous saves not working. The new game file system will make sure not to have any bugs when you update. Unfortunately, it will be impossible to keep your previous saves on campaigns, battles, and saved designs. Okay, that's pretty bad news for my Legendary Encounter series, because that means that all the ships are dead. Which I get, because it means that they don't have the drafts and whatever, the other stat. Custom battle, Japan, 1940. Yamato's supposed to be there, but is not. Right, okay. I'm just gonna have to redesign those ships, sadly. But then again, I now have a lot more options. Okay, I think that's the overview of all the things that were added in the beta 1.05 patch. Lots of stuff added, and I am very much looking forward to playing the hell out of this patch. So expect daily uploads of this new patch with a new campaign series. And, well, I hope you found this video useful. Let me know what your thoughts are on what they have added in the patch. And again, if you want to play it, right-click Steam, go to the properties of the game and select the betas in the beta tab. Just add or open that and you should be automatically able to update it to the beta. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video, which is going to be one of the campaign vids. See you then.